to the show. New episode, new story. Let's begin the journey.
Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the translucent membrane that served as a window in the Kethran diplomatic compound. Beyond it, 3 moons hung like unblinking eyes over the alien city of Threshold, a name the Kethrans had given it long before humans arrived, though they claimed it meant something closer to the place where paths diverge. "You're troubled," came the melodic voice behind her. She didn't need to turn to know it was Velshar, her primary subject, and, she suspected, something far more complex than a simple liaison. "The convergent celebrations are growing more violent," Sarah said, watching plumes of bioluminescent smoke rise from the lower districts. "Your people are fracturing." "Our people," Velshar corrected, moving beside her. The Kethrans stood a head taller than Sarah, their chitinous skin shifting through colors that her implant translated as emotional subtext. Right now, deep concern threaded with something her database labeled as purposeful obfuscation. "According to the prophecy of shells, humanity and Kethran are bound. Your arrival makes us one people, for good or ill." Sarah had heard the prophecy countless times in her 8 months on Kethra Prime. Every child learned it, every leader invoked it, every faction interpreted it differently. The words were carved into the planet's oldest structures, encoded in genetic memory crystals, woven into the very fabric of Kethran society for what they claimed was over 10,000 years. When the sky kindred descend through the veil of stars, the shells of our becoming will either harden into eternal armor or crack into dust. Those who prepare the sword shall know war. Those who prepare the feast shall know plenty. Those who prepare both shall know wisdom. The sky kindred bring not fate but choice, and in choosing, both peoples shall become what they feared or hoped. "Velshar," Sarah said carefully, "I need to ask you something as my friend, not as my cultural attaché." The Kethran's colors shifted, curiosity with an undercurrent of wariness. "We are both, always, but ask. Do you actually believe the prophecy? Or do you believe in it because you've been told to believe in it?" The silence stretched between them. Outside, another burst of colored flame erupted from a gathering Sarah's security briefing had flagged as belonging to the hardened shells, the militant faction preparing for humanity's destructive potential. "A human question," Velshar finally said. "You separate belief from truth, faith from fact. We do not. The prophecy is, whether it was divine inspiration or political engineering 10 millennia ago, matters less than what it has made us. It has shaped every Kethran institution, every treaty, every technological choice. We developed quantum communication not for commerce, but to ensure the sky kindred could find us. We built Threshold as a landing point. We structured our government with exactly 13 councils because the prophecy speaks of 13 ways of choosing. Tell me, Dr. Chen, if a truth is lived for 10,000 years, does its origin matter?" Sarah's neural implant chimed softly. A message from Earth, routed through the diplomatic channels. "Meeting. Private. 1 hour. Castellan. Marcus Castellan. Representative of the Hegemony Corporate Council, the consortium of companies that had funded Earth's colony ship and expected returns on their investment." Sarah had been avoiding him for weeks. "I have to go," she said. Velshar's colors flickered. Disappointment and something else. Suspicion, perhaps. The other humans circle you like predators circling prey. They want what you know. "What do I know?" "How to make us love you instead of fear you," Velshar said simply. "How to fulfill the prophecy in humanity's favor." The human diplomatic quarter occupied a converted Kethran ceremonial complex, its curved walls covered in intricate reliefs depicting the prophecy's various interpretations. Sarah's office was deliberately positioned beneath a carving showing sky kindred and Kethrans building something together, a tower or weapon depending on your perspective. Marcus Castellan was already waiting when she arrived, his expensive biosynthetic suit reflecting the room's amber lighting. He'd had his appearance modified to project trustworthiness, symmetrical features, kind eyes, a grandfather's smile. Sarah's implant helpfully overlaid his real appearance. Harder, younger, predatory. Dr. Chen, thank you for seeing me. You didn't give me much choice. Sarah sat across from him, deliberately not offering refreshments. What does the HCC want? The same thing you want. A peaceful integration of Kethra Prime into the human sphere. Trade, cultural exchange, mutual prosperity. His smile never wavered. The colony ship arrives in 4 months, 50,000 settlers expecting a world ready to receive them. But instead, we have alien militias stockpiling weapons and prophetic death cults preparing for apocalypse. There are also factions preparing for alliance, Sarah countered. The open shells, the bridge builders, the quantum harmonists. The minority factions. Castellan leaned forward. Dr. Chen, I've read your reports. All of them, including the ones you flagged as confidential. You're the one person the Kethrans actually trust. You've done brilliant work, building relationships, learning their psychology. But it's time to move beyond observation. Meaning? Meaning you can influence which prophecy they believe in. You can tip the balance toward cooperation. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. You're asking me to manipulate an entire civilization. I'm asking you to guide them toward the outcome that benefits everyone. Look. He pulled up a holographic display. These are the hardened shell's weapons facilities. These are their training grounds. They're not preparing for possible conflict. They're preparing for certain conflict. If we don't act, if we don't ensure the peaceful factions gain dominance, first contact will be a bloodbath. The holograms rotated slowly. Sarah recognized some of the locations from her cultural surveys. Velshar had taken her to one, claiming it was a preparedness academy, teaching Kethrans to defend their culture while embracing change. What about Earth intelligence? Sarah asked. Surely they have protocols for this. Castellan's smile tightened. AI has their own agenda. They want Kethra Prime as a military staging ground for the sector. They'd prefer the Kethrans remain divided, easy to control. The HCC wants partners, not subjects. But we need your help. And if I say no, then I find someone else less squeamish about practical necessities. Dr. Hammond from the Xenosociology team, perhaps. Or I work directly with the open shells, give them resources to consolidate power. But that's messier, more likely to trigger the civil war we're trying to prevent. He stood. You have 48 hours to decide. After that, events will unfold with or without your conscience intact. Sarah didn't sleep that night. Instead, she dove into the Kethran datasphere, her consciousness mediated through translation protocols, searching for the prophecy's origins. The official history was clear and consistent. The prophecy of shells had been delivered by the Oracle caste during the Unification Wars 10,000 years ago. It had ended centuries of conflict by giving the fractured Kethran peoples a common purpose, preparation for the Sky Kindred. The Oracle caste themselves had vanished shortly after, their final act to encode the prophecy into genetic memory crystals. But as Sarah dug deeper, accessing archives that required Velshar's personal authentication codes, provided during one of their increasingly intimate conversations, she found inconsistencies. The prophecy's language used quantum terminology that shouldn't have existed in ancient Kethran dialects. References to the Veil of Stars matched almost perfectly with later discoveries about the region's spatial anomalies that made faster-than-light travel possible. The 13 councils mentioned in the prophecy had been established after the prophecy, not before. It was either impossible precognition or something else entirely. Her implant chimed. Velshar, requesting an emergency meeting at the Temple of Convergence, neutral ground where all factions could gather. Sarah found Velshar waiting near the temple's central oracle stone, a massive crystal that supposedly contained the prophecy in its purest form. But the Kethran wasn't alone. 3 others stood with them, their colors broadcasting complex hierarchies Sarah's implant struggled to parse. Dr. Chen, Velshar said, their colors subdued. These are representatives of the Council of 13. They know you've been researching the prophecy's origins. They wish to speak with you. The largest Kethran, whose nameplate translated as Stone Who Remembers, stepped forward. Human psychologist, you ask questions that have not been asked in generations. This is either wisdom or danger. I'm trying to understand, Sarah said carefully, to help my people and yours avoid conflict. Understanding requires truth, said another Kethran. Rain through shells. Are you prepared for truth that changes everything? Sarah's heart hammered. Yes. Stone Who Remembers gestured to the oracle stone. The prophecy was not delivered by mystics. It was engineered by our most brilliant scientists and psychologists. A social technology designed to unite our people and prepare us for the statistically inevitable arrival of another spacefaring species. The temple seemed to contract around Sarah. You knew? The entire civilization was built on a lie? Not a lie, Velshar said softly. A framework. A self-fulfilling structure that made us ready for this moment. The Oracle cast calculated that first contact could destroy us or elevate us. They couldn't control which species we'd meet or when. But they could control how we'd react. By building prophecy into our culture, they ensured we'd be prepared for both outcomes. They created a civilization-scale psychological experiment, Sarah whispered. They created a survival mechanism, Stone Who Remembers corrected. And it has worked. We did not descend into chaos when your ships appeared. We did not unite in xenophobic violence. We split, exactly as intended, into factions that prepare us for every possibility. The conflict between hardened shells and open shells isn't failure, it's design. We test both paths simultaneously, so that whatever you choose, some of us are ready. Rain through shells moved closer. But now the prophecy faces its true test. Because humans are also manipulating events. Your corporate interests, your intelligence services, even you, Dr. Chen. We see the pressures building, everyone trying to tip the balance their way. The prophecy accounted for our actions, but not for such aggressive outside interference. What are you asking me to do? Sarah said. Stop helping, Velshar said, their colors washing with something like pleading. Stop trying to save us. Let the prophecy play out naturally. Natural? Sarah laughed bitterly. Nothing about this is natural. Your entire civilization was engineered. My people are trying to engineer your response. We're all just playing the game the Oracle cast designed, Stone Who Remembers said. Yes, but here's what they understood that you do not. Prophecy works not because it predicts the future, but because it provides a structure for navigating uncertainty. It doesn't matter if first contact brings salvation or destruction. What matters is that we're prepared for both, can choose either, and understand the consequences of our choice. The Oracle cast, Rain Through Shells added, knew they could not control the future. So they created a tool that would make any future survivable. That is the true prophecy, not that you bring salvation or doom, but that we have the agency to choose what we become in response to you. Sarah spent the next 36 hours in her quarters, ignoring increasingly urgent messages from Castellan, from Earth Intelligence, from the colony ship's advance team. She reviewed everything she knew about Kethran psychology, human manipulation, the mechanics of prophecy and belief. The Kethrans had built their entire civilization as a choose-your-own-adventure story, with humanity as the random factor. Brilliant, terrifying. And now humans were trying to force a particular ending, which would either destroy the prophecy's elegance or trigger exactly the conflict everyone feared. But there was another option. She called a meeting with all parties, Castellan's HCC representatives, the A-handlers she'd been pretending not to notice, and the Council of 13. It took threats, promises, and one emergency authorization from Earth to make it happen. They met in the Temple of Convergence, humans and Kethrans regarding each other with suspicion. I know what everyone wants, Sarah began. HCC wants profitable partners. Earth Intelligence wants strategic assets. The hardened shells want to test humanity's worthiness through conflict. The open shells want immediate alliance. Everyone's trying to manipulate events toward their preferred outcome. And you want to stop us? Castellan said coldly. No, I want to make the manipulation transparent. Sarah activated her display, showing a complex web of influence operations, corporate bribes, intelligence provocations, faction funding, diplomatic pressure. This is what everyone's been doing. Playing the prophecy like a game. But here's what you're all missing. The prophecy only works if the Kethrans have genuine agency to choose. The moment they realize they're being coerced, the entire social structure collapses. Stone, who remembers colors, flashed with what her implant translated as profound recognition. She understands the Oracle cast's deepest insight. So here's my proposal, Sarah continued. We make a new prophecy, together. Not one that predicts the future, but one that acknowledges the truth. Two civilizations meeting, both trying to survive, both trying to shape outcomes in their favor. We make the manipulation part of the story instead of hiding it. That's insane, one of the A-handlers said. You're suggesting we admit to covert operations? I'm suggesting we stop pretending this is destiny and start treating it as negotiation. Sarah turned to the Kethran representatives. Your ancestors created a framework for handling uncertainty, but they couldn't have predicted humans would bring their own frameworks, their own manipulations. The prophecy needs an update, not a replacement, an evolution. Velshar stepped forward, their colors cycling through complex patterns. The prophecy of shells speaks of 13 ways of choosing. Perhaps there is a 14th we never considered. The choice to acknowledge that choice itself is being manipulated, and to choose anyway. You're proposing meta-prophecy, Rain Through Shells said. A prophecy about prophecy. I'm proposing honesty, Sarah said. The only way this works is if both sides stop trying to fulfill a predetermined outcome and start actually negotiating what we want to become together. Castellan stood abruptly. This is corporate suicide. We've invested billions in a civilization sophisticated enough to build its own future, Sarah interrupted. Either you respect that or you colonize them. But if you colonize them, you destroy the very thing that makes them valuable partners. You'll just have another subjugated population and all the resistance that comes with it. The silence stretched. Sarah watched the Kethrans' colors shift and flow. Having what her implant tagged as a collective processing state, they were communicating on channels humans couldn't fully access. Finally, Stone, who remembers, spoke. We accept, but on one condition. The human doctor Chen must stay. Must help us create this new framework. She understands the game but hasn't forgotten it's real people playing it. Sarah hesitated. She'd planned to return on the colony ship, write her reports, maybe teach at Earth universities about her experiences. But looking at Velshar's hopeful colors, at the ancient temple built on engineered prophecy and genuine faith, at the impossible challenge of helping two civilizations genuinely meet instead of just colliding. I'll stay, she said. 4 months later, when the colony ship arrived, it found something unprecedented. A joint human Kethran delegation waiting in orbit, broadcasting a new document they called the Threshold Accords. It wasn't a treaty. It wasn't a prophecy. It was something in between. A framework for mutual manipulation that acknowledged both sides would try to shape outcomes, but committed to doing so transparently, with shared understanding of the stakes. The hardened shells and open shells still existed, but now they worked openly with human factions, each testing different models of integration. HCC got their trade agreements. A got their strategic partnerships. The Kethrans got agency in their own transformation. And the prophecy? It was rewritten, carved into new oracle stones that ringed threshold. The sky kindred arrived and brought not fate but negotiation. Both peoples prepared for war and alliance, for exploitation and partnership, for destruction and creation. In choosing to acknowledge all possibilities, both peoples learned wisdom. That prophecy serves not to predict the future, but to provide courage for making it. Sarah stood with Velshar at the dedication ceremony, watching human settlers and Kethran citizens mingle with careful optimism. "Do you think it will work?" Velshar asked. "I think we've given it the best chance possible," Sarah said. "We've made the manipulation part of the story instead of hiding it. Now everyone knows the game being played. But is it still a game if everyone knows the rules?" "No," Sarah smiled. "Then it's just life. Messy, complicated, unpredictable life." Velshar's colors shifted to what Sarah had learned meant contentment threaded with hope. Perhaps that was the Oracle cast's true prophecy all along. Not that the Sky Kindred would save or destroy us, but that they would make us finally stop pretending we could predict the future, and force us to build it instead. Above them, 3 moons hung in the alien sky. Below, 2 civilizations began the difficult, imperfect work of becoming something new. No prophecy could tell them what they'd become. And that, Sarah thought, was exactly the point.